So today we have University of North Texas, and with us at present, University of North Texas is located in Denton, Texas, USA. It offers undergraduate, graduate. We have Mr. Peter Vermeulen, Director, and Mr. Peter Vermeulen currently directs international recruitment at the University of North Texas. He pursued a 25 years career in higher education at leading graduate school in Europe and the US, directing MBA and executive development programs, consulting to multinational corporations, and recruiting students worldwide. We also have with us Ms. Fareen Memon. She's a regional manager. Fareen Memon manages, Fareen Memon manages the South Asia operation for the University of North Texas, USA. With a substantial experience in overseas education, she is an asset in connecting with the students for the higher education plan abroad. The United States continues to be India's #1 study abroad destination for students wanting to pursue education in one of the finest education systems in the world. She is instrumental in enlightening them with vital aspects of student life in USA. They will be covering a very important topic, which is what job opportunities should students expect post-COVID. Welcome, Fareen. Welcome, Peter. And the stage is all set for yours. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you for this wonderful introduction, Mr. Lasrado. And thank you for the wonderful talk on unconscious mind. Wow, that was a treat too. I just caught the end of it, but fascinating topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So welcome, everyone. My name is Peter, and I am joined today also with our regional manager for South Asia, Fareen. And we're going to talk a little bit about the big changes that are going on, especially in the engineering job market. And so I am going to see if I can share my screen, and we'll get the presentation on the way. Fareen, are we seeing the screen in Mumbai?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. All right. So we are at the University of North Texas, UNT, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the north of Texas. And so my name is Peter. I direct international student recruitment. It's wonderful to be with Education Abroad Counseling Center. I know that this organization gives very good information about your opportunities for studies abroad, especially in the US. And so we really like to partner with this group. Thank you so much, Mr. Lasrado, for this opportunity. So we're going to talk today about high demand engineering degrees in the post-pandemic economy. And really, there have been a lot of changes recently. In the US, we're really in a new era. We're in an era where the US has rekindled its wonderful relationship with India. You can see that just from the body language in this photo. Things are on a good track between our two nations, and that's got to be good news for students wanting to pursue studies and careers in the US. Another factor that's really helping this good relationship, of course, is Kamala, who at the highest levels of the US government is really adding another layer of really good relationships with India. All right, so these trends, you know, are long-term trends. Some 10 years ago, when I would come to India, I would look on the back of an auto and it would say telecom. And it was the era of the telecom engineers, right? Everybody that was pursuing a career in engineering, what they really wanted was a telecom career. Then just 5 years ago, when I would come to India, I'd look on the back of an auto and it would say networks, right? And network engineering was really trending then, and a lot of great internships could be found in network engineering. And so every time that the technology moves forward, there's a new trend and new opportunities for new careers. And so just before COVID hit in 2020, I would look on the back of an auto and it would say data science. And so I understood, right, that even back then, where the big data economy has arrived, where it's all about analytics and those kind of areas of study. And so let me spell out for you the map of your opportunities in engineering land. And then I'll point out which of these areas are really trending at the moment in terms of the demand from companies and internship opportunities and careers going forward. So here is a really short history of engineering. You know, when engineering first started out, it very much started when our societies were still very simple, right? It started out in agricultural societies where the first types of engineers were agricultural engineers. And then every time a new technology came along, new types of engineering developed. And so as the Stone Age arrived and we learned to capture certain forms of energy, soon we had civil engineering where we started to build villages, bridges, all of that, right? Civil engineers. And then with new technology came new types of engineers. With the wheel and transportation, we saw the start of mechanical engineering. And these fields are still very much at the core of engineering, right? Civil engineering, mechanical engineering, those are wonderful fundamental choices to make in engineering. But I'm going to show you how these fields have branched out. Of course, as we learn to capture these technologies and apply them to transportation, soon came the need for other forms of energy like coal through mining to power these forms of transportation. And so along came mining engineers, and some of the best engineering schools in the US are still colleges that are originally were focused on mining engineering. And then we captured other forms of energy, for instance, electricity, and along came electrical engineers, double E, right? And we see at the moment in this choice of studies that students choose that electrical engineering is still a very popular field. And then with electricity, that made it possible for our societies to get much more sophisticated. And so along came the Industrial Revolution, and we learned to structure our production in efficient ways. And along came process engineers and engineering management. And then with the further progression of communications, the telephone came along, we started to share voice with each other. And of course, that's the fundamental start of what later on became the big boom of telecom engineering. And of course, we don't just share voice, but we also started to share and process data. The computer revolution happened with hardware and software engineers coming on the scene. And then computers weren't standalone anymore, but computers got connected together into networks, and the World Wide Web came along, and with it, network engineers. You remember the back of the tuk-tuk that I showed with the network engineering just 6-7 years ago was a big trend. And of course, it didn't stop there. Data is now very much shared in the cloud, and with the cloud comes now the big data engineering world. So that's a quick progression of how we got to today. But of course, there are a number of other engineering disciplines that developed. For instance, out of hardware and software engineer, of course, the next development was applications, and with it, computational specialists in different computing areas. With networks came the need to keep information safe, and so along came the need for cyber security. And our computers, of course, got a lot more sophisticated and started doing tasks that people used to only be able to do in the past. And we call this AI, artificial intelligence. Looking at some of the other engineering fields and how they developed, of course, from mechanical, soon we started applying the mechanical engineering to our personal transportation needs through vehicles, cars, and along came automotive engineering. Soon that developed also into much more sophisticated public forms of transportation like aeronautical engineering and even astronautical engineering with our space programs. And this is where you can nowadays have some of the most sophisticated, best paid engineering jobs. Energy engineering did not sit still just with electricity. We learned how to capture sustainable energy. And for a while, we thought we had that puzzle covered with nuclear engineering. But of course, that came with a lot of environmental challenges as well. And so now one of the leading fields in energy engineering is environmental engineering. Again, an area where there are many well-funded jobs. In terms of our sources of energy, well, of course, it didn't stay with coal. After coal, and we know this very well in Texas, oil was discovered as a form of propulsion. And so petroleum engineering came along. And after that, petroleum, of course, is the source of energy for a lot of materials. And so came along chemical engineering. And the latest extension of that line of discipline is materials sciences, all about stronger, lighter materials, better batteries, things like that. And mechanical also sprouted another field, which is applied to more of the medical application, biomedical engineering. And very recently from mechanical, the area of robotics has just ballooned, especially in the area of the flying robot, the drones. And so robotics engineering is definitely an area that should be on your radar. So there you have a map of how the engineering disciplines have developed. And notice at the extension of this map, biomedical engineering, material science, some of the computational specializations, also cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, environmental engineering, aeronautical engineering, robotics. Those are all areas where there are great new internships. So let me turn to what is really trending and what companies are telling us that they're looking for new talent. So trending, first of all, is the area of what you're seeing here is a clean room. The clean room is a manufacturing facility at the very smallest particle level. This is a center for nano fabrication, nanoparticles. You'll know this from the production of computers, chips, right? So this facility on our campus, very expensive research facility, produces very high level research on stronger, lighter materials. For instance, for the aerospace industry, some of the companies on our doorstep at North Texas are Bell Helicopter and Lockheed Martin. And so this field is the field of material sciences. Furthermore, another field that is very much in development in research and where there are great opportunities to get involved in research on our campus and later on in industry is biomedical engineering. What you're seeing here is a 3D printer that produces, this one produces organs, artificial organs for implantation, so that the organ that they use will not be rejected by the body. And so this is a field where biology and engineering come together in biomedical engineering. Then a third area that should really be on your mind for careers of the future is the area of robotics. Robotics, what you're looking at here is one of the drone labs on our campus. Drones are the flying robots And what you're seeing here are drones that are used in emergency situations when, for instance, there's been a flood or an earthquake, and the drones have an antenna on top. And what they do is the responders can put the drone over that area, and the antenna helps the mobile phones of the firemen and the police and the military, helps their mobile phones to work so that they can get to the people very quickly to help them in emergency situations. This is very well funded research. Some of the big companies that are near North Texas, like Bell Helicopter, fund some of this research. And so these are great opportunities if you're like electrical labs, if you like robotics, to be involved in some of the latest research. Robotics and energy engineering. The energy engineering focuses on better batteries. Many of the autonomous vehicles that we're seeing these days, of course, they require energy sources of their own, so we need better batteries. Then the big data economy has really come to the engineering discipline, where engineering and analytics are coming together in a very exciting field called data engineering. And data engineering, if you're good at coding, if you like analytics, this is a field where there are lots and lots of great new internships. And then we've talked about this a little bit already. Computers are taking on tasks that in the past were just possible for humans to do. And so there is a very fast developing field called AI, artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence really invades many of the appliances in the house, transportation, vehicles, many applications. And so that means also that there are many different companies that are now looking for specialists in the area of AI, artificial intelligence. And then a final field in engineering that should definitely be on your radar as well is, with all this big data out there, companies are of course trying to keep the data safe, right? Trying to make sure that their patents, their company information is not shared with people who should not have access to that information. And so the need for security in cyberspace is larger and larger. On our campus, we have a very well-funded Center for Cybersecurity, where we assist the FBI in finding new technologies to keep information safe. So cybersecurity is again one of those degrees of the future. So here's a lineup of the 6 degrees of the future that we feel are should be definitely on your radar: material sciences, biomedical engineering, robotics and energy engineering, data engineering, artificial intelligence, and cyber security. And you know, the good thing about studying in the US is that you have a lot of flexibility in the way that you bring together your coursework, your lab experiences, all that, and then your internships. And so our advice is perhaps start in one of the core disciplines of engineering, for instance, mechanical, if you're into electrics and robotics, or computer science, if you're into artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and then add in a lot of coursework in these new areas so that you come out with a very well-rounded degree program and make your jump into internships. You know, a lot of students still think some of these areas like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, that it sounds like these are things for the future, right? But they're very much here. Let me explain just how much they are already here. So I noticed this just recently. I used to drive a wonderful old car. Here's my old Volvo. I loved my old Volvo. It was chunky, it was ugly, but you know what? It was my best friend, right? It always took me wherever I wanted to go. It was reliable. And then unfortunately, just recently, I crashed it. And I was heartbroken. I really loved my ugly old car. So I had to buy a much newer generation car. And so I went to the dealer and I found quite a recent car. This is a 2020 technology car. And it's wonderful. It's new, it smells nice, it drives wonderful. But I noticed a few things as I drove the car home. This is a very different generation, they're very different technology car. As I was driving along, I drove a little bit too close to another car and a light came on and it said brake assist and the car slowed down. And as I drifted a little bit towards the side of the road, another light came on and it said lane assist. And it pushed me a little bit back to the center of the road. And then when I got home, I wanted to park the car and another light came on and it said park assist. And the car wanted to park itself. Now, I understand the car does not think I'm a very good driver. And this is this new technology, right? Here's artificial intelligence built into the car that takes care of the mistakes that I'm about to make, right? And so there's a whole generation of artificial intelligence that is already with us. That technology is here. It's not of the future. And how about that big data world? Well, so a couple of weeks ago, it was my birthday and I got an email from my car. My car sent me an email and it said, congratulations, Peter, happy birthday. I thought, oh, this is nice. My car wants to be friends with me again. But I kept reading in the email and it said, by the way, I notice you do a lot of highway driving. And I thought, oh my goodness, my car is spying on me. And this is that world of big data, right? The car manufacturer is constantly gathering data about me as a driver, my driving habits, and the maintenance of the car, right? And so that big data world is very much here already. It's not something of the future. It is where companies like Toyota, a big technology company, Toyota has their head office for the US right on our doorstep in Dallas-Fort Worth. They have fantastic opportunities for internships in artificial intelligence, in data analytics. So when you are planning to what you will study in the US, think about these fields and make sure you add in lots of coursework from these areas so that you're ready for the degrees of the future. Because that wave is now, right? As we are hopefully soon getting past the lockdowns and the way that we're limited in our ability to fly around the world, the economy is slowly recovering. And as companies are now looking at the post-COVID economy, they're starting to think about hiring talent again. You know that unfortunately during the pandemic, of course, many companies either had to let go of some people or had to put the brakes on hiring of new talent because everything was uncertain. But now we're really, that new wave is coming of new hiring of talent for the new economy. And when companies hire for the new economy, they're going to be looking for that new talent, right? Talent in the area that is ready for the big data world. People that are really good at their analytics, people that understand artificial intelligence, people that have skills in the area of cybersecurity. and the new technologies such as the robotics, biomedical engineering, the new materials. Those are the fields where you're going to be most competitive for your new internships and for your career going forward. So with that, I'll introduce briefly my colleague. She's on this call right now. Her name is Farheen. Farheen is very, very knowledgeable about North Texas and is our permanent representative in South Asia, mainly based in India. She's just down the road from you in Mumbai. She lives in Pune, just over the mountain range. And here's how you can get hold of Farheen. She has a very simple email address, untindia@unt.edu. And so for any questions about studies in the US, Farheen is really a great source for you. She's very regularly in Mumbai as well. And so she's there to help with any questions you may have. And so with that, I'd really like to thank you for your attention. I mean, I'm going to switch to questions and answers so that we can help with whatever questions are on your mind.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. That was a wonderful presentation, wonderful connecting basically the evolution that has happened in engineering from agriculture to cloud computing. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. A couple of questions. One, basically, because of this COVID, there is a new culture of work from home. How is the student going to basically face this new challenge? Do the student need to equip some new skills for this? What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, so students, when they come to the US, of course, they come for the US campus experience, right? They really want to be in class and face-to-face interacting with students from all over the world, with the faculty, and they want to experience everything that makes a US campus exciting, right? The campus life, the athletics, the campus spirit. You see behind me the campus colors, and here is Scrappy, our logo, our mascot. Scrappy is an eagle. And so this is part of studying at a US university, right, where students really get into the social fabric of the campus. But of course, our campuses are doing everything to keep students safe. That starts with vaccinations, right? We are very, very lucky in the US that there is an abundance of availability of the vaccines. And so vaccines are free and immediately available upon arrival when the students get here. So that worry is taken care of. But still, as the knowledge develops about how this horrible disease develops, we still have to be very cautious. And so students are still in courtesy to others, are wearing masks, are trying to stay distanced. And that also means that the capacity in some of our classrooms means that just occasionally we have to work in shifts, right? Where students will study from home the one day of the week and then be in class in a smaller group the other day of the week, that kind of a hybrid structure. Students, of course, now the pandemic has been with us for a year and a half. My goodness, it's been so long, right? Right. Initially, as the pandemic got going, the faculty and everybody had to get used to teaching online. And honestly, teaching online 1.0 was not optimal, right? We were all still learning. We were all still getting used to it. And it wasn't 100% great. But we're very much into teaching online 2.0 now, where we've learned some of our lessons. We've learned how to be more interactive online. And so even with some of the online courses, they've gotten a lot better. And students have started to figure out, you know how to find a balance between definitely going to the labs, going on campus, finding the veg food options on our campus, but also to study some of their time from their student rooms.
Perfect. Just one last question to you, sir. Basically, what I wanted to know is basically you have showed the evolution from how things have gone from farming to basically cloud computing. Now, what is important is also basically the future, basically things will come new, so there'll be new technologies. So how much important is continuous learning for a student who wants to do any of these specializations?
Yes, that's an awesome question. You know, I spend a lot of time talking with our corporate partners about this and saying, well, when you think about, so our corporate partners are companies like Dell Computers in Dallas, Bell Helicopter, technology company, American Airlines, one of the largest airlines in the world. And when I talk to their HR directors and ask them, what are you looking for in the employee of the future? They tell me, well, Peter, the future is pretty uncertain, right? They know there'll be a lot of change. They know there'll be a lot of uncertainty. And it's not that they have a cookie cutter model of what the perfect talent for the future will look like. But what they talk about is transferable skills. What they mean by that is that a student, they want the student to come out of university programs with a toolkit which prepares them very well for whatever future comes along, right? And that has to do with a solid basis in one of the engineering disciplines, for instance, but it also has to do with skills that prepare you for that future. And I think in your talk before, where you talked about psychology and the unconscious mind and all of that, companies want students to be reflective. They want students to be able to think of themselves as a professional and think about, what do I know? What do I need to know more about? And to keep learning. And so this point that you're making about the need to always stay current with your knowledge, stay open to the fact that you need to keep learning, is a very important point. And so we try to instill that mindset in the student while they're with us, to give them skills for the future, but also to help them with that mindset to keep learning.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. I will not take more of your time. Fareen, you have been waiting patiently. The stage is all for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you for inviting us today for the presentation. And I see some wonderful inquiries from the students and their questions as well. I think Peter has been, sharing about the progression in the fields of engineering, which is one of the most important majors that students look for from India. We would certainly be able to share more information should you need that. I have shared my email ID in the chat box with you. And if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to assist you in the near future. And also, since I stay very close by in Pune, I will definitely be able to meet you sometime in person once things get better here in Maharashtra.
All right. Farheen, any other question at the moment?
We do not have any specific questions here from the students, but maybe I would like you to talk a little bit about our location, about University of North Texas having being located in Dallas-Fort Worth area, and how Texas is a very primary location for engineering job opportunities for the future.
Sure. So Dallas-Fort Worth is located, if you look at the map of the US, is located in the center of the US, a little bit towards the south, right? And so that very central location has really made Dallas-Fort Worth and Dallas-Fort Worth Airport a major transportation hub within the US. And the Dallas economy in the past of course, has been very much an energy economy. And as the fossil fuels have done really well in the past, this has really driven the Texas economy in the past. But now recently, many companies are adjusting to the new types of service economy, the big data economy. And so there's been an influx of many high-tech companies into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You've heard me talk already about Bell Helicopter and Toyota, those kind of companies. We also have many of the defense industry companies here right on our doorstep, like Lockheed Martin, those kind of companies. Also Texas Instruments, Raytheon, the high-tech aerospace companies related to NASA. So for instance, on our campus, we have a NASA lab that focuses on aerospace technologies. And so it's these companies around us that provide a lot of funding for the labs on our campus and provide great internship opportunities for the students. Dallas-Fort Worth is the third largest economic area in the US. And if Dallas-Fort Worth was a country, it'd be the 10th largest economy in the world. How about that? And so that gives you an idea of the scale of Dallas-Fort Worth and our backyard here for our university. Dallas-Fort Worth economy is larger than the entire Canadian economy.
Perfect. You know,
Great.
Farin, I just wanted to check, basically, are you going to have a university presentation where you're going to share the university details as well?
Not now, but then if you would like, we can certainly talk more about that.
Okay, fine, because there are students, and I was, if you could have a small presentation about the university, the program, the admission requirements, it would just help them to understand and then apply to the university as well.
Yeah,
Definitely, yes. Yeah.
Let me give a start to it, and then Farheen can definitely add to this as well.
Sure.
Basically, universities in the US want to know a number of things in the application. They want to know, have you been a strong student in your previous studies? So for this, they ask for your grades, your mark sheets. And for university admissions, for undergraduate, for the bachelor level, we need about a 2.5 out of 4. And for the master level, about a 3 out of 4. This translates in India to about 70%, 68 to 70% in terms of grades in India. Then the university also wants to know, once you're with us, will you be effective? Will you be successful in our programs? For this, we ask for the GRE or the GMAT on the master's level, or for the SAT or ACT on the undergraduate level. Now, recently, because of COVID and many of the test centers being closed, many of those requirements are actually waived. You do not have to have those requirements. Then a further requirement is, we want to know, are you able to keep up in a very fast-paced English language classroom? And so for this, we require an English language test. The tests we see most often in India are IELTS, E-I-L-T-S, IELTS, for which we require the 6-band, 6.0, or TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language, for which we require 79. And then there's a great new alternative called Duolingo. Duolingo is the company that also produces the great language learning apps. Duolingo has now a test that you can do online. It's much less expensive than the traditional tests. UNT requires level 100 out of 160 for the Duolingo test. That is really my preferred alternative for you for English language tests. And so a few programs also require you to submit letters of reference, statement of interest, things like that.